Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today talking a little bit about Mahomes and Darnold. But before we get into that, I have to acknowledge it's been a minute. Honestly, just really haven't had a chance to, dive into some of the NFL stuff. Definitely putting some effort into the Bears stuff, but it's a busy time and barely getting through with that. And then honestly, I didn't think we would go this far with the COVID situation. So, that is what it is. But, this is originally a NFL draft channel. So by extension, this is definitely some content for NFL as well. So if you are one of my non-Bears fans that are listening, feel free to request things. I got to get some more Steelers stuff up soon, especially with the Bears on bye. I got to get some Steelers stuff up soon for one of the listeners that requested that. I did a couple of those, and I enjoyed it. I might do some film sessions again for them, put that out there. But if you root for another team or you just got a question or whatever, just throw it out there. I mean, it takes more time for me to find stuff that I want to cover than it is if somebody asks me to do something and then I cover it. So, just throwing that out there. So anyway, all credit to ESPN, Get Up, Greeny, Mike Greenberg, all that. This topic is something I saw them talking about, and I thought it was really interesting. Now, Greeny is one of the guys I like, one of the few I like. He's not an expert by any means, but I like that he acknowledges that he's not going to go sensational. And if he does, he's going to call it out. If he's saying something, he's going to, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of it right now, but he's going to let you know before saying it, hey, I'm not an expert on this, or this is being prisoner of the moment or whatever. And so he's very insightful with some of the stuff he says, even though he's not a football expert per se. So I enjoy him because he's at least up front. But even with that being said, it was funny to watch them talk about this. And he talked about it with, I believe it's Marcus Spears, Swagoo. I just call him Swagoo. I forgot is it Marcus Spears? Anyway, he be saying some stupid stuff, but they were talking about it, and Swagoo says dumb stuff, so I'm used to that. But it was funny to watch Greeny just eyes light up like he had this huge epiphany that football players play within the system and not within a vacuum. And it's something that I've been saying for a long time. So when it comes to the conversation of if Pat Mahomes and Sam Darnold flopped and switched, if Mahomes was drafted to the Jets and Darnold was drafted to the Chiefs, would Darnold be Mahomes-like? Would Mahomes be Darnold-like? Would Mahomes be good but not great? Would Darnold be better than what he is? How would that play out? And again, they kind of got into this conversation of situation and scheme and talking about how that does matter, especially for quarterbacks. And if you listen to any of my draft stuff, I've said that that's bread and butter. That's one-on-one. That's day one. And that's one of the reasons I say all the time, you can't compare quarterbacks. So just doing this exercise, because I saw a lot of people in the comments and whatnot react differently to it. So just doing this exercise, for me, Sam Darnold going to the Chiefs, and at that time, Tyreek Hill he had a good year with Alex Smith. But obviously Alex can't unlock the potential he had, but he was more than a punt returner by that time. Travis Kelce was a great tight end. Wouldn't say he was top tight end in the league, but he was a great tight end. They were starting to realize how good he was. And so those weapons are legit. Pat Mahomes didn't create those weapons. Andy Reid, for whatever. I mean, I watched this man in Philly what seems like my whole life, and all the complaints about him. And even with the Chiefs early on, and now for people to act like he's some genius because Pat Mahomes came. So for what that's worth, you got Andy Reid, even though his tree's now looking bad, but he started his coaching tree started to spread out recently. For whatever that's worth, you got him. And then with Mahomes, and then the Chiefs, okay offensive line, but what developed into one of the better right tackles in Mitchell Schwartz, that was a big thing. But okay offensive line. Jets, real poor offensive line. Nowhere near any weapons like that. So what would it amount to? What I would say is, yes, when we're talking about scheme, that's very important. But another thing I talk about that people have to realize is that confidence is gigantic, especially when you're talking about quarterbacks. So I guess I would start off by saying it would be different because the level of confidence would be different. Sam Darnold being thrown into a situation, and honestly, it don't matter if he sat behind Alex Smith or not. He's being put in a situation with a coach who has a well-established reputation, and especially as an offensive person. So you're going to work more closely with him. And then you have some established weapons. And so that's already going to be a confidence booster. Whereas on the opposite side with Mahomes, in Mahomes really not being a highly touted prospect like Sam Darnold was, you already might be a little unsure. You might be confident in what you can do, but you're still unsure because you haven't done it yet. And then you don't really have any go-to weapons that you can feel like is a safety blanket. The offensive line is going to speed up your clock. And then you're going into a situation with Todd Bowles, who isn't a reputable coach, and he's a defensive coach. Not to say that he's not a reputable coach, not a reputable head coach, reputable defensive coordinator, though. So confidence is huge. That would be the biggest difference that would really change what happens. And honestly, you could look at Mitch Trubisky and Deshaun Watson with that. And I've said that. Now, again, there's a lot of factors that go into that. But at the end of the day, and I said this, like, they've evolved the offense from what it used to be. And I don't think Watson's still elite or anything, but he's evolved from that first year because people going nuts. And I was like, bro, they are really running simple stuff like just zone read, pistol zone read, pistol play action rollout. They were just doing really simple things. But what it did is it helped his confidence, because once he was doing well at that, then it makes you a lot more confident at attempting things that you might not be good at. And I even think about Lamar Jackson. Lamar, obviously, we see that his skill set is not as a passer, but the times that he has had to pass, the times that he's made plays, all comes off the fact that he was already confident that he's a dominant quarterback. And it might not be traditional, but he's got that sense of, I'm a dominant quarterback. I'm going to make it happen. And so you don't second guess things. And in football, seconds and inches matter. So when you aren't second guessing, when you're playing fast, you can make more plays. That definitely goes for defense, but every football coach is going to tell you that we want you to play fast. We don't want you to be out there thinking. And so conversely, when you have Mitch Trubisky barely passing the ball every game, and then when he does pass the ball, not really more than 2 routes, and no receivers that gave him any confidence. And then even going forward past that, once you got into a more spread offense, you had an offensive line that wasn't giving him a lot of time. So you go back to David Carr, and they still talk about him as a bust, but everybody talks about how much he was sacked and how much he saw ghosts. And it was like they just put him together. It wasn't his fault, but that they label him as that. And his confidence is shot. Once you go through that, your confidence is shot. Your confidence at the beginning is so important. Like, sports psychology is a thing. It's very important to athletes. So if Mahomes has a bad game or bad year or bad playoffs, you think he's going to change next year? No, he's going to come back because he already saw himself do it. But as a rookie in that early formation stage, or whenever you end up playing, you haven't seen yourself do it. Even if you think you're the best, or you're not sure yourself. You haven't seen yourself do it. And once you do it, then you're like, okay, I belong here. I can play here. And now you have confidence in whatever you go after. So Mahomes, again, a lot of this comes down to psychology because, what's between the ears. I don't know. I don't know these players. I don't evaluate. I don't practice with these players. But from what we hear and what we see, I know Mahomes is a hard worker. And to jump up from where he did in college to where he is now, or even his first year starting, had to take a lot of studying and work and absorbing the information, because the only way he's able to command that offense is if he really knows what's going on. And so I would say he definitely has that part. But the one thing that he would not have is a lot of time in that pocket. And so we saw against the 49ers in the Super Bowl that even though he still had a pretty good game, there was the ability to shut him down with that pressure and rattling him. But he bounced back. But again, that man's been MVP already. So what happens to rookie Mahomes if he's getting rocked and sacked and there's no time? And he's not exactly a scrambler. Like, he could get yards. He's like Aaron Rodgers. He could do it when he needs to. But he's not exactly out the pocket passer. And so what happens? Does he try to become an out the pocket passer? Does he not learn how to read defenses because he's so busy trying to run away from pressure? I think a lot of that would have changed this trajectory as well. Now, one thing is Mahomes has a hose. He has a huge arm. And there's a lot of trappings that can happen with having a big arm. But you can't really take that away from him no matter who he's around. And so I think there's definitely room for success. I think he's a competitor and he wants to win and he knows how to study. And I definitely don't think Mahomes at all would be who he is right now, but I think he would have fared better than Darnold. Now, on the other side with Darnold, all that's just really the opposite. I mean, you now have more time in the pocket. You have more weapons. Darnold has a hose too. You got a guy you can go deep to. You got a guy in Kelsey you trust. You got a creative offense. You got all these things. And honestly, Darnold's more of a scrambler than Mahomes is. And I think what you would have saw was something that's probably 2 or 3 steps ahead of Josh Allen in Buffalo. And so I think 100% Darnold would be better. Would he be Mahomes? No. From what I saw in college and what I've seen now, and it's hard to say because I didn't think Mahomes, no one thought he would be what he is. But from what I know about Darnold pre-NFL, he was not the football IQ that Mahomes was. Now, Mahomes didn't have to do a lot of that on the field in the air raid offense, but a lot of people just talked about his ability on the board and his real high football IQ. And so Darnold, I just don't see him getting to the level where he would have been the same type of pocket passer. But I think Darnold would 100% be a lot better than what he is now. But again, it's all circumstantial. That's why I get away from this idea of a bust. Like, a bust should only be talked about in terms of a GM. Like, the Bears picked Trubisky at number 2. Ryan Pace had a bust at that pick or whatever. It shouldn't be like Mitch is a bust, like Mitch did it. I mean, they don't draft themselves. And so anyway, that's how I feel about it. So whenever we're talking about these situations, it does matter the situation you go into, because players aren't good because they're good. They're not bad because they're bad. Players play within the confines of the game and the team. And I've said this for a long time, and it was interesting to hear it on TV, but not an interesting conversation to have. All right, so anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Do you think Mahomes would be just as good, still good, not good? Do you think Darnold would be great, okay, or still bad? Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.